Welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette, featuring sysadmin expert Don Pizzette, DevOps engineer Justin Dennison, security specialist Daniel Lowry, and Peter.
Hello and welcome to Technado with Don Pizzette. We've got a great episode for you today from our new studio here that we're really enjoying, especially since we kicked out that fifth guy we had here. We've got a lot of elbow room to really stretch out, and it's a lot nicer now.
And I can feel this fan.
Oh, you can feel the fan now.
Yeah.
Well, we do have, actually we have 6 people on today's episode because we are joined remotely by Neil Modi and Oliver Wellington, the co-founders of Headliner. How you guys doing?
Great. Thanks for having us.
I love the beautiful background behind you and everything. It's really it's lovely.
Yeah.
Is that a window? Is it really foggy outside New York?
Modern art.
It's actually,
It's better than our usual view. We're coming to you from a WeWork conference room. This is the kind of view we're used to.
Oh, I'm glad you were able to make it in the door.
That really captures the modern startup, right?
It does.
You know, co-founders in a WeWork conference room.
Did you hear that story though about the umbrella that got stuck in the WeWork door
a
and that
picture
people
of it.
couldn't get into the office? Yeah.
Nope.
Okay, well, that's a great story.
I saw that. They had to come in from the
That's
floor
Justin
above.
Fur. What's
Yeah, they had to
WeWork?
die hard, rappel in from the roof and shoot the
I
glass.
think
out
you're
of it.
way overselling this.
No, I believe that's what happened.
Nah.
Hey, well, I want to learn more about our guests and about Headliner, so let's go ahead and jump in with our first segment, Rapid Fire Questions.
Who do you work for?
What's new?
Who are you?
What's happening?
What's wrong with you?
All right. The first question is none of those, but if you could, please tell us, what is Headliner?
Yeah, sure. So Headliner is kind of the easiest way for audio producers, mainly podcasts, to market their content out on social media. So if you're familiar, like the rest of the internet outside of podcasting is very visual. Same reason why you probably guys are doing this video. Video gets to a broader audience, especially on social media. If you look at your feed, it's very visual with images and videos. And so we allow audio producers, mainly podcasters, to market their content outside of podcasting by converting it to a video. And it's used by, 60, 70,000 podcasters at this point, and become kind of a go-to tool for marketing your podcast.
So what gave you the idea to start Headliner?
Yeah, so this story is kind of funny. It's kind of the classic startup pivot story. So we had a mobile app. Oliver and I, after our last company, we got thinking about podcasting. We both love the medium, but also thought it was kind of tough for the average person to get into it. So we created this mobile app to record kind of voice conversations. Like, think of it as like recording phone call conversations. And that had some kind of traction, but when we shared out audio on social media, nobody was consuming it. It just couldn't compete with the splashy kind of headlines and images and videos you see all over Instagram and Facebook and Twitter.
Yeah, and so like one little feature of that app was people had said, "Hey, could you guys help us make like a kind of like a visual way to share it?" So we made it embed from the app. And then from there, people said, "Hey, instead of recording on this app, could we just put our own audio into your embed?" And then that part of the app kind of just became the main thing people were using it for. And then we were kind of like, hey, maybe we should just focus on this sharing audio to social thing because there's something here.
Yep.
Yeah, and
so
hats off.
That started.
I was going to say hats off there for like recognizing. A lot of times people will be like, no, that's not how you use our system. Here's how you use it, and to actually say, oh, people really just want this. Let's focus on that. That's a cool way to do it.
Now, I know when we started our podcast, there was a lot that we didn't know. We made some mistakes.
Still a lot.
I can think of one glaring mistake right now, which is how
And
we address
Peter.
marketing. Yeah, by hiring a marketing guy. So in you guys' experience, what is the biggest mistake that you have seen podcasts make, especially when it comes to marketing?
Well, I'll let Oliver handle this one, being the marketing expert.
So I think like the biggest mistake podcasters make is to not put enough effort or any effort into marketing their podcasts. I understand because a lot of podcasts are, they take a lot of time to make. And you probably may have another job you have to do. There's like not a ton of podcasters that are doing that for their full-time job 24/7. But so you make the podcast, get it up in the directories, and then it just kind of sits there, and they kind of hope that the people, they build it and people will come, but people aren't going to come. So they need to get out and do things to market it. And so obviously one great way is to use Headliner, but there are lots of other things they can do too. But I would say just do what feels comfortable and what feels right. And the thing like that you actually know you'll be able to accomplish. It's kind of like dieting.
What is dieting?
We're not the crew to be talking
Never
about.
heard of this term,
That's
which you
for
speak.
Yeah, but to your point, like even Joe Rogan has to go do those UFC fights because he, can't make money just podcasting.
I don't think that applies here.
Pretty sure
No,
he does Fear Factor because
it's to support his UFC habit.
yeah, podcast.
Plus, it was awesome. I've actually been watching a lot of Fear Factor lately, and it was highly entertaining.
It's
highly
tremendous show.
entertaining. Speaking of highly entertaining, I guess the next natural question would be, what is your favorite podcast? Now, wait for the entire thing. A, is it the Technado with Don Pizzette? B, the Technado with Don Pizzette? Or C, other?
I mean, Technado.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Depending on what side of the Mason-Dixon.
Can I say A and B?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we'll accept that. Judges?
Yeah, any other answers?
No.
No, that's it.
I appreciate the
See, now the
honesty.
listeners are going to think you're lying.
Yeah.
Both listeners.
Like we,
Both listeners.
they're like
you're
they
paid.
definitely paid them to say that.
It's just one person with multiple personality disorder. But
Well, question 5 is the same every week, and that is, what's your problem?
Do we have time for that one?
I mean, we can do
Now it's
general.
It's a little hot in this room and I'm sweating profusely, but
Pro tip fan.
yeah.
Justin has. Oh, you've got it.
I think our problem is there's a lot of awesome things we want to build and we don't have 100 engineers. That's our biggest problem right now.
Yeah.
Seems to be going around.
No, you
Yeah.
guys are in startup mode. How many employees are you up to now?
Yeah, so we're 8 people, but working like we're 20 people, I feel like. So Oliver hit the nail on the head. I think it's just like finding out as much as we can with
No
the
one can
limited
believe,
capacity.
no one ever believes what we've actually built when they find out how many people did it. So
Yeah, you said it was, what, 60,000 podcasters earlier?
Yeah, I think I haven't looked lately. We were at 60,000. We just hit, like in January, we actually just hit 1 million videos made on Headliner. So it came out January of 2018, and it's just been kind of on fire. Luckily scaling. I know I've been listening to your guys' podcast, really, and all the like sysadmin things I used to have to do. Luckily with like cloud and AWS, we've been scaling a lot easier, but it's still painful. But yeah, I would say we have something like 70, 80,000 podcasters and like over 8,000 videos getting made a day at this point.
Wow. Congratulations to you guys. That it's a good problem to have right there.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you can tell from how many times we've said podcast so far in this podcast that podcast is our buzzword of the week this week. So let's get into that.
Success.
Virus.
Server.
Pop 3.
Password.
Cyber bullying.
Say what?
Buzzwords.
How many times have we talked about cyberbullying?
Those were the free sounds that I could find.
Oh, okay.
That's coming up next week, idiot.
Oh, can you tweet that at me?
write
Yeah,
that
you
to
gotta
me.
you gotta
Yeah,
write
yeah,
that to
just
me.
say
Hashtag be
Oh,
better.
it's not cyberbullying if I just say it?
All right, so we have a couple of articles here. The first one from TechCrunch that is making a bold proclamation here that 2019 was podcasting's breakout year, and I think about it now that, like, looking back, podcasts have been around for several years now, but it was kind of an early adopter thing, and I feel like the first time I heard my parents say, "Oh, I heard this podcast about such and such," was in this last year. So I'm going to go ahead and call that mainstream now. So would you guys agree that 2019 was podcasting's breakout year, and why?
Well, my reason is almost the same as yours. So we've been kind of at this company for almost 5 years at this point, right? And my dad's never really understood what we do, but this year he said, "Hey, podcast, isn't that what you're involved with? And I was like, yes.
You went crap. Now it's passe. My dad likes
you
it.
read the news, and now you believe it. When I say the word, you have no idea what it is. But so yeah, I would say so. When your parents know what it is, that's a big sign.
Yeah.
It's odd that both of you brought that up because this past year, my mom was like, "How do I upload something to be a podcast?"
But
and
you
I
want
was
to
like,
make a podcast?
yeah.
Because that's even further than adoption.
Yeah, well, it was like a friend asked me, and they're wanting to do it. I want to know how to do it, and I was like, "Wait a minute, what? I don't know. Other people like Peter take care of that."
What's her topic?
She surveils her neighbors.
It's moonshine, right?
Yeah, it's got to be moonshine, moonshine and cigarettes.
Well,
Probably a podcast about moonshining.
yeah, I would listen to that.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah, there was a highly successful Discovery show about moonshining.
If Justin, yeah, but that's fake though. If your mom is doing it, that
A
is
whole
real.
different story.
All you hear is the reflex coil.
Oh, it's got an ASMR kind of show too.
And see, that's where you'd need a video element to go along with
absolutely.
it, right? That makes sense.
Here's that copper still.
When you finally see the temperature gauge hit 170, you're like, oh, here's the good stuff.
It's white lightning.
Last batch, Grandpa went blind over, but this isn't going to be better.
Well,
Maybe I should stop talking about specifics. I'm revealing too much.
yeah.
If you go behind my mom's house, there's
about
like an old
200 yards.
shanty.
So our other article on this one from PacificContent.com, it's got 20 podcast predictions for 2020 from top industry leaders. Were you guys quoted in this? Are you industry leaders?
We were not. We were not.
Well, if there were 21 predictions,
Yes.
or 22, because there's two of you, what would your predictions be for 2020 for podcasting? Besides, Justin's mom finally gets her show.
I'll start. I would say that basically, I actually would argue that it isn't I don't think it's fully mainstream yet. Right. So some of that research in those articles are saying kind of 1 in 3 Americans have listened to a podcast in the last month. I think we'll get to 1 in 2, but I think there's just so much amazing content and it should really get to almost everybody. And so in order to do that, someone has to solve that. And I think that can get solved this coming year. And I think Apple, Spotify, us, and some other people are working hard on getting podcasting out everywhere. So that's what I think this coming year, actually taking it mainstream. So it's as kind of ubiquitous as YouTube or Google or social media in general. It's getting there, but the fact that we're talking about it means it's still not there, I think, but it'll get there.
Well, yeah. My prediction. Oh, sorry. You guys want to respond to that?
No. I'd love to hear yours.
My prediction is that this is finally the year Podcast the Musical comes to Broadway.
I'm seeing Book of Mormon tonight. I'm very excited.
Are you really?
Yeah, not on Broadway.
No.
Down here in Gainesville, Florida.
I was like,
It's a
you should
touring-
probably get to your plane.
It's a touring production.
Yeah.
I thought it was just a bunch of homeless people.
No, it's actually a reading of the Book of Mormon. We're just going.
Happens at the intersection now.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, Don?
So, a lot of the predictions centered around new players getting into the market, existing players merging, hitting $1 billion in revenue or just money spent in podcast advertising, a lot of different things all focused on growth. And I know 2019 was huge for podcasting. I've seen articles that said podcasts are ushering in the cord cutting era, that a lot of people don't need network television anymore. They're getting their entertainment from podcasts. Do you guys think that this is a sustainable thing? Or is this
It almost seems like a bubble. Are there too many podcasts now? And it's
So we should save our money, and when it bursts, we'll buy up all the podcasts.
Yeah, don't invest in podcasts today.
Yeah.
Invest in podcasts
Gotcha.
after the first. What do you guys think?
Are there too many podcasts? I know it's hard to find, even though there are so many podcasts, it's hard to find one today, which is a whole kind of thing. If there's 800,000 podcasts in the directories versus say Netflix has about 6,000 titles on it, and they seem to be doing a pretty good job of entertaining people around the world. I think the main issue now is just making sure that people can find the podcast that they want to listen to at the right time. And so I think that's going to be the big thing that starts to happen this year.
Yeah, I'll add, I don't think it's a bubble at all. I mean, it's basically a modern day blog, which, if you think about it in sheer number size, there's millions and millions of blogs, still are. And then secondly, I think on-demand radio is kind of shifting, has kind of moved to podcasting. And so you have all the radio guys also creating content. And so if you think about car listening, these at-home devices, Alexa,
Smart speakers.
Yeah, smart speakers. And then, headphones in your ear pretty much around the clock. I don't know about you guys, but like at the office here, people have their headphones in all the time, and with
AirPods.
Oh, damn it! I did it again.
Airbud is a movie about a dog
Fantastic
that plays
film.
basketball.
Yeah.
Speaking of Oscars, yeah.
Wired ones.
I was actually Oliver corrects me all the time. I call them
And
AirPods.
AirPods are the headphones that
Yes.
changed your life.
If I could ever get their name right. But with all that stuff, I think I don't think we're in a bubble at all. More great content's getting developed. We're definitely, for the average person, like Oliver mentioned, who's not marketing their podcast, it's only going to get worse. But
Very similar to blogs, like the growth of blogging, right?
Yeah.
It just, because our last company was actually, we worked mostly with bloggers and kind of watched that whole explosion happen. And so this is very similar. Like the tools are getting there for people to not only create their podcast, but now things are coming out to help them promote their podcast.
And
Yeah, I'm actually listening to a podcast right now, another podcast, and that's why I have my headphones on. But a lot of the predictions in this article did talk about Spotify and Apple. So there's a lot to be made about those big players really pushing it now, and Spotify might make it easier for people to discover what they're looking for. So we'll definitely post the link to these articles in the description here. So take a look at and judge for yourself. But we've got to go ahead and get over to the news now. So stay with us, guys, because we'd love to have any opinions. Just speak up and yell if you think Don is wrong about these articles, which I don't know. Because this first one, I was telling you, Don, I read over and over before realizing I didn't know what the words meant. So this one is on Phoronix.com. Linus Torvalds doesn't recommend using ZFS on Linux. And wow, that blew me away.
Yep.
Yeah. I can tell.
Don, please explain what we're talking about here.
All right, so ZFS is a file system that is wildly popular with people who use large storage appliances. In fact, like the like OpenNAS software solution or FreeBSD has kind of embraced ZFS to a degree.
Like the freezer I have in my garage.
If it runs FreeBSD.
Large storage.
Large storage? Yeah. I can see
Oh,
that,
I thought you were saying FreeBSD. I was like, that's a weird operating system to run on a fridge, but whatever.
I'm sure it could do it.
I'm sure it could.
I like how he
Very
went
stable.
straight to his deep freezer.
Yeah.
So one of the challenges with ZFS is that it was developed from Sun Microsystems, which means it was wrapped up in the Oracle acquisition. So Oracle owns a number of the rights to ZFS, and they've released it under I believe the CDDL license, or one of the non-GPL license, basically. And so for years, Linus Torvalds has said we can't put ZFS into the Linux kernel because of that license, because it's not compatible and we could get sued. There was a change made to the Linux kernel in the last release that broke the ZFS or OpenZFS support, where it's a module that's kind of bolted onto the kernel. And people are complaining, saying that the Linux kernel maintainers broke ZFS. They didn't care about it. And so Linus came out and said, no, we don't care about it. We didn't do it intentionally, but we don't care about it because that's not code we can use. We're not going to support that. We don't break userland. We protect our userland applications. But if you're writing modules that tack onto the kernel that are not compatible with our license, that's your own problem. Now, all of that makes sense. But then he added a few extra comments on and said, nobody should be using ZFS anyway. The metrics that I've seen don't show the performance is any better than the other things that we have, and it's not even being actively maintained. And the community went nuts because there's been like 40 pull requests this year alone, and it's only January. And so it's certainly being maintained. And there are certain scenarios, especially on large storage devices, where ZFS has better performance. And so it's created a bit of a ripple. But I'll tell you, from my standpoint, I never use ZFS in production.
Well, what are the other options? Because you mentioned, he said, use the other things out there.
So in the Linux world, you're usually going to see ext4 and XFS. So like Red Hat has really put their backing behind XFS. Ubuntu, or the Canonical guys, they're still supporting BTRFS, which is
The Korean boy band?
Butter.
ButterFS,
ButterFS.
BetterFS. People call it different things. But even that one, I don't use BTRFS in production, and that's because, like, if you use any of its RAID functionality, it is a recipe for data loss. So it's still not perfect. ZFS, on the other hand, is really stable. So some people do like it. I wouldn't run it.
That's one of those things where it's not being actively maintained. I guess that's a matter of perspective at some point, because I look at projects and I go, well, they've had a pull request in the last year, so that should be fine. He's like, nah, it's not good. The ZFS, if you use the RAID functionality, because that's the whole purpose of like the FreeNAS project and stuff, is they use ZFS because it provides like software RAID. Is that something that I should be worried about if I got something running at my house?
Now, people who are serious about storage don't use the software RAID pieces, right? Because hardware RAID is dirt cheap and way more reliable. So they're usually going to be using things like the dynamic snapshotting and other features of that file system, super large volume support, data redundancy. There's all sorts of other features that attract people to that file system, but it doesn't affect the normal average user. And when I say average user, I don't mean end user. I mean like a sysadmin. Your average sysadmin doesn't give two craps about some of this functionality. That's kind of how that one falls down.
Yum.
I get it now.
Good feedback, guys.
Didn't understand it. Now got it completely.
I'm glad we cleared it up for you.
Neil, Oliver, you guys got that now? There will be a quiz after this.
Do you guys have any other recipes for data loss?
DD.
Yeah, the data destroyer, baby.
That's right. Work every time.
Mess up your input and your output to dev null.
Say goodbye.
It is all over, son.
Really big magnets? Right.
Yes.
Would that do it?
Thermite.
No ZFS for you. No ZFS to add to that.
No,
No ZFS.
All right, well, let's take a look at our next article from The Verge. Microsoft's Windows Terminal is getting retro-style CRT effects, search, and more. It's a nostalgic trip back to the days before LCD. And so this is kind of cool. So you're basically taking all the functionality, the new stuff, and some new features, it looks like, and just getting a new skin on it, basically?
I know what this is for.
Oh,
this is for government employees who are still running Windows 3.1 on their CRT monitors. But when they go home, they're like, "What is this?" And so this is just for them
to calm them down.
What's funny is Linux has had this for at least 6 years.
Yeah.
If you look back in our YouTube catalog, I did a how to install cool retro terminal like 5 years ago. And did this exact same thing in Linux.
So this is another big thing from Satya Nadella since he took over as CEO. For 20 years, Microsoft did not make a single change to the Windows terminal. It was in the same form it was from way back in NT4, really unchanged. When Satya took over, there was a much bigger focus on developers and the way developers work. And that's why you saw products like Visual Studio Code came out, which is a really easy to use Electron-based text and code editor. And you're starting to see other things like they released that the font, a specific font designed for developers that did, I'm going to forget the name. What is it?
Ligatures?
Ligatures. There we go. Thank you. Which is not the thing that attaches muscle to bone. It's
That's ligaments, but ligatures are something you might see on crime shows. These are the symbolic characters that replace combination of characters, like the equal or greater than sign becomes actually like an arrow-looking thing.
And even
ligature marks.
Even simple functionality like cut, copy, and paste, which you really couldn't do with keyboard shortcuts in the terminal, which was insane to be missing. That's stuff you had in the Linux and Unix world forever. And now we're starting to see some of that roll through. And now we're even seeing some of the fun stuff. So if you want the CRT effects and little bells and whistles, are starting to get that too. So really cool stuff.
Real quick, does this mean that if I stand back from my computer with the CRT effects on and I take a video of it with my phone, do I get to see the lines?
So yeah, it does do that. It gives you like scan, well, at least the ones.
But you see it with the naked eye, don't you?
Yeah,
Like,
you see, you don't need a
has a
phone.
scan
It
line?
just does it.
So that was something that when I was a kid that always freaked. I'm like, what is wrong with those monitors? Like you'd see news reports and stuff, and there's like a TV.
That's the
background.
government, son. They're coming. They're getting into your brain.
Well, obviously, that's second nature.
what was it? Like every 30th frame was supposed to be propaganda?
Yeah.
See, now that's marketing.
Buy
That's-
war bonds.
Yeah.
So that's why there's too many podcasts. We can't get them all in at that one frame.
So where's the market for every 30th frame? Can I start that secondary market?
I think so.
Here's what we need:
Taboola does that?
sudo in Windows.
Oh, bro.
If I could get that campaign going, I'd be so happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
Can I
it's garbage.
escalate privileges?
The fact that I have to open up a different terminal
Just to
and
elevate.
if
just
you
to elevate
forget-
privilege. Oh my! Every time.
Peter is right on board with us.
No, yeah, 100%. Like sudo.
Do you even use a Windows machine ever anymore?
I don't actually. I'm on a
Better
Mac
version
now.
of judo, right?
Yeah, it is. That's the thing with the numbers where you try to get like 10 numbers?
That's Sudoku.
Yeah.
Sudoku.
Pseudo.
Yeah.
Close.
This is something else?
It's seppuku, isn't it? Seppuku.
No, that's original suicide.
Wow, we took a turn there.
Yeah. So similar.
How's your
words.
freezer working?
So how do I get this? Is this just in the latest update from Windows?
Actually, it's in the fast ring right now, so it'll come out for people that are in the Insider program. We'll get it first, and then it'll roll out to everybody else probably around March.
By the way, unrelated, but kind of related to Windows. Isn't today one of the end of life days?
Windows 7.
We didn't pick that article. We probably should have, but today is the last day of support for Windows 7.
That's not Windows 7. That was XP. But that's the sound effect I had here. So
Yeah. So if you're running Windows 7, today's, in theory, the last day you'll get security updates unless you steal them, which is a crazy idea in and of itself. There's whole
hold
websites.
on. Back up. You can steal security updates?
Yes, you can. So
Who's making them if
you
it's not
pay
supported?
Microsoft, it's like $50 a year the first year, $100 next year, $200 next year. You can get 3 more years of support out of Windows 7, and people are actively collecting those updates and repackaging them. So it's kind of like a bootleg market for security updates.
And I'm sure you can trust those. And so
Yeah.
you think this is a security update, and really it is the
I got my security update from Pirate Bay. It's great.
yes.
Process tells me I got to update. Didn't say where it had to come from.
So, Neil or Oliver, do y'all still use CRTs in your company? Or?
Get it started.
That's what their whole website's running on right now.
Something actually kind of funny about this is we have a really cool, hip person that does branding and design on our team, and she showed me the latest like video template style she did. She called it Windows 95. It essentially takes podcast art and information and makes it look like it's being popped up in a old Windows notification, which I don't even think Neil's finding that out for the first time.
Yeah.
Does it ask me to update Flash?
It's like bell bottoms. All fashion comes back around again. People get nostalgic. There's
All
value in
things
that.
old are new again.
I don't miss them at all.
Yeah, I saved all my old Windows because I knew my kids would want them.
Yeah.
So
You got to pass them down. That's part of the will.
Yeah.
You're talking to a guy who has every version of OS2 sitting on his shelf. So, yeah.
Yeah. Because this is my
Do
job.
we have an ogre saying nerd on here?
I gotta get that.
Yeah.
Well,
I might be
can
able
we
to
record that after?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll do that. All right, our next article is over on Engadget. Spectrum's exit from home security leaves people with useless tech, and customers aren't getting much in compensation either. So, Spectrum, for those that aren't in one of their areas, that's a cable company, right? That's like
Correct. Cable and internet.
Xfinity or Cox or any of those. So, basically, they're just saying, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore.
So cable companies are under attack, right? In that a lot of people are cord cutters. People are moving to podcasts, not ours, but others, and and people are getting entertainment from places other than television. So the cable companies are having to branch out into new services, and we saw that early on with internet, which really saved the cable industry. They would not be where they are today if they didn't start offering internet. Then with telephone service, so all of them offer digital telephone. Some have gone even further, offering home automation, things like security systems, doorbell cameras all throughout your house.
VoIP phone.
Thermostats.
So they can make sure to market to you appropriately after they gather
Absolutely.
all of your. You're like, every day Justin goes to the refrigerator, gets a cup of yogurt. Maybe we should show him yogurt commercials.
Mm-hmm. No, he seems to be fine.
Yeah,
in
he's
that
fine.
area.
And, for one of us, if we decide, hey, I want to have an automated thermostat, we would do a little research. We'd find one, maybe a Nest or something else. We'd buy it. We install it, right? We're tech guys. Is what we do. But if it's your grandmother, she's probably not going to do that. I mean, there's probably some techie grandmothers out there, but not many. So instead, when the cable company says, hey, for $20 extra a month, we'll put it all in for you. That's a no-brainer. It's easy, right? And they get all the great technology and go with it. The problem with hardware as a service, and we're seeing this more and more, is that when the service decides to shut down, when they decide to discontinue service, the hardware becomes useless. And they give an example of one guy who had just paid about $900 to get cameras and thermostats and other things put into his house. And now that Spectrum's discontinuing service, the tech is useless. Like, you can't use the hardware without Spectrum offering that service. And once the servers are shut down, it's useless.
I had a hot flash when I was just
hot
getting
flash.
sweaty, just thinking about giving my grandmother a smart thermostat, because I can imagine, it's not working. Like phone calls out the wazoo
Nonstop.
to me. So
You are your family's tech support.
I am.
But then you
I
could just ask Alexa to fix it remotely.
we just destroyed like a bunch of people. All 3 people listening to this. They're like,
Okay, good.
It's funny when you said there was a guy who paid $900. It was like an unrelated article. That guy paid $3,000 for a box truck and fertilizer. Started looking for their company.
So is this one of those things where this wouldn't be so bad, but most of these companies always like shut it down to where I can't like change firmware or something like that and take over maintenance of these respective devices, right?
Yeah. Think about like an Amazon Echo, a Google Home, an Apple. What is Apple's assistant called?
Stupid.
Who cares?
Yeah, or HomePod or
Hey,
whatever.
stupid.
Those things rely on the servers on the other end, right? And once those servers shut down, those devices are useless. Like you can't do anything with them. And occasionally somebody in the hacking community will find a way to reuse them, but for the most part, it just becomes e-waste. And that's our future. That's happening more and more often.
Well, I still have that Foscam, and so what's cool is I don't have to
I'll
get
update that
monitoring
for you.
because
No, you
the
won't.
Chinese government
There isn't
is
one.
just watching me at all times as well. So I have a feeling like if someone like
You're
was breaking in, they would be like, "Hey, watch
Did you
out."
see that video of that lady who's her Foscam or whatever got hacked into, and the hackers were yelling at her? And
Well, we talked about a couple weeks ago
A Ring,
before
right?
you
It was a Ring
talked about the
device?
Ring one where it was someone said they were Santa Claus and talking to the kid,
oh yeah,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
which that's creepy.
So
yeah, I snatching off the wall.
Neil or Oliver,
Smashing on the
y'all
ground.
big like home automation, IoT kind of device geeks?
No, it kind of freaked me out, to be honest.
You're
I
a
do have
smart
that
man.
thermostat, but only because our home is not properly zoned and they have that feature where you can kind of control the temperature in different rooms. But other than that, no, not inviting yet another device into my house. No way.
But in New York, do you even have room for an Alexa?
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. I mean,
I was
there's like
gonna say my apartment has no need for any of this stuff, so I'm kind of out of the loop. But yeah, I mean,
kids though, they love the stuff. They have all of it.
Yeah, I don't need a camera when I can see the entire space from right where I am right now.
He's like, I have an Amazon Echo in every room. I've got one of them.
In my kitchen bedroom.
Bathroom.
Yeah.
Hey, tiny homes, that was a thing, right?
Still is.
Still is.
Still is.
Yeah.
Sure. I don't know. Are those people still in those homes?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
There's like a huge uptick because
Especially up in the like Pacific Northwest.
Yeah,
or whatever.
yeah.
I stayed in
Tiny
our.
homes are big in New York.
They're big in New York?
No, they're big
They
for
are
New
big.
York.
Oh, they're big for New York. Yeah.
I was like, that would be weird to drive into the city and be like, where are all these tiny houses
Like
coming
you have
from?
200 square feet?
What is it, $1,700 a month?
Yeah. All right. All right. Our next article is from TechCrunch. Mozilla says new Firefox security bug is under active attack.
What's not?
Dun, dun, dun.
My frightening noise. Yeah.
The title of this article was kind of weird to me. Am I alone in that?
Yeah, so the wording is a little weird, and it's because they're trying to draw attention to the wrong thing. There's security vulnerabilities in Firefox all the time, right? Security updates get pushed out. It's not that big of a deal. Usually, we hope a security researcher finds it and reports it, goes through responsible disclosure, the bug gets fixed, everybody has time to update, and then it gets publicly announced. What's different here is a security researcher found the vulnerability, did responsible disclosure and reported it, but it was already being exploited in the wild. And so the reason they do responsible disclosure is because we don't want to help the bad guys out. We don't want to tell the bad guys, oh, hey, here's something you can take advantage of that we haven't updated yet. So they keep it secret, right? But in this case, it was already being exploited. And so that's a big deal. And they've been really tight-lipped about it because, again, they're trying not to share that information. But an update has been created. If you run Firefox, you absolutely need to be pushing to the latest update, which is 72.0.1. Firefox 72.0 just came out like 3 days ago. So if you think you're up to date, like, oh, I just updated the other day, it's been too long. So you need to update to 72.0.1. And I'm sure more details will come out as time goes on.
Did I read this right? This bug allows essentially arbitrary code execution outside of the sandboxed environment, right?
Correct.
Right. So in theory, with Firefox, every tab runs in a sandbox, that it's isolated, and this bug is bad enough that it allows somebody to escape the sandbox.
JavaScript.
Well, I did the patch. I installed the patch called Chrome.
Yeah, that's one way to
And it seed to fix
And
it.
now you have no RAM.
Yeah.
That's weird. Yeah.
Oh, your
You hear my
computer's
fan?
smoking.
Yeah.
Your computer's smoking.
Can I
It
get
needs a
that fan actually on the
Yeah.
floor to go ahead and shoot on this computer?
Well, now that Microsoft Edge, I think that was another date that passed this month, right? That Microsoft Edge
Oh, yeah,
switched to
Chrome.
the Chrome core.
Wait a minute. That might be tomorrow.
Is that tomorrow? So
think it might be the
soon,
15th.
there's really only going to be 2 browsers, Chrome and a million reskins of it, and Firefox.
Let's see when
Actually,
this
Peter,
comes
you bring
out.
up an interesting point. He's like, I installed Chrome. This was an O day. Like, there's O days for Chrome. Nobody knows that they're out there until they go, oh, what's this? Oh, this is actively being exploited. And
This
then
is Firefox actually told us. Like, you think Google would tell you?
No.
Come on. That's just crazy. I don't see.
What are all these extra Chrome processes that say
TCP
miner?
connection. Yeah.
January 15th is the release date. So this podcast is being released on the 16th. So it was yesterday. Wasn't that crazy?
Or
You remember that?
for us, it's tomorrow.
Yeah, it was all the crashes. It was crazy.
Man, are we in the future?
We are.
Yeah.
It is crazy. Yeah, and podcasts are really, really taking off.
You got to do the rest of the podcast as Marty McFly.
Yeah. Hey, guys.
Are you late?
Always, yeah. All right. Well, we've got one more article here?
Yeah, last
One
one.
more article, yeah. Also on TechCrunch, 1 billion medical images are exposed online as doctors ignore warnings. And after reading this article and the comments, it seems that the doctors ignore warnings part is a little misleading. It's more hospital administrators and their IT staffs.
It should be doctors' offices ignore warnings.
Yeah. Well, most doctors don't even do this imaging. They send it out to radiology.
But some of the issues that they're having are those
Are
transport
sending
layers,
those
from
back
what
and
I
forth.
understand.
Yeah. So basically, if you're the kind of person that really, enjoys looking at those kind of images,
Well, I think
Hey,
if
good
you read
day.
through the article, one of the worst things is some of these images have embedded metadata that have like social security number and like
because they
first
use
name.
Social Security
I don't think
for.
it said it was metadata. I think it was like a splash page.
Yeah, but I think you can
It said,
add it.
here's the guy.
Like
the-
here's Justin's thyroid, and he lives here, and his
Yeah, here's
social
his
and his
social.
first pet's name was.
Well, it's the file format, right? It's like saying that stuff is basically embedded in
but
the
there's
file.
been
It's a
release
part of the
to
file,
the
yeah.
file format that would address this, but no one's upgraded from what I understand.
But that might
they
break
should do
stuff,
that.
Justin.
I know.
So the way they explained it is that years ago they decided that doctors need to be able to share information, right? Patients move,
Stupid.
and you want to be able to get access to this, and you don't want to have to go and sit for a CAT scan or whatever every time you visit a new doctor. So the problem there was different doctors use different software. So they wanted to come up with one format they could use to exchange data, and they came up with this one. I forget what the extension is, like
DICOM, is it?
SDMIL or
Yeah.
something.
I
Oh,
think it's
DICOM, that's it.
yeah.
And so it's a container, and you can put practically anything in the container. X-rays.
What does that mean? It's like a zip file almost.
Yeah.
It's like okay.
Very similar, except it also has a table of contents, basically, of what's inside it and where the bits start and stop and all that other good stuff. So that can then be transmitted to a different system, and the other system will be able to interpret that and reuse that data. The thing is, they then went a step further and said, you know what, let's create a server called a PAC server that allows hosting up these images and exchanging it between the systems. And that PAC server, apparently they don't have a good hardening guide for it, or just nobody has ever read the hardening guide, because it transmits these files and in its default configuration doesn't have a password. So if you can connect to the server, you can access everything that's on it. And many doctors' offices were putting the server with a public IP directly connected to the internet. Once attackers or hackers found out about that, they were then able to scan the internet and identify PAC servers all over the place, and that's what led to these 61 million 61 million patients, billions of images.
I don't even know if you're a hacker at that point. You're just like a web browser.
You're more of like
am
an
I a hacker
explorer.
if I
A
found
lot
this-
of hacks really boil down to
This
that.
unlocked
Yeah.
door that you have.
Like, what's this? It's a big data dump of stuff.
The fact that the door is unlocked doesn't matter. It's
That's
the fact
true.
that you found the door, right? It's
Yeah.
just somewhat hidden.
No one will ever guess these numbers.
Now, what got me about this article was I did like Peter, I read down in the comments and everything, and somebody had mentioned Project Nightingale. And then I was like, what's this? And so I started following it, and it's big tech companies are vying for your medical data to do the processing on it. And Google has Project Nightingale. It's just like this huge, where they are a big player in processing medical data and extracting the information.
That makes
and
sense.
Using it.
However,
Yeah.
I'm getting those specific ads for that type of yogurt based on.
I didn't know I could pick my hip replacement.
Did you know you have IBS? I'm sorry? Yep, you do.
You do.
We
I
just
guess
let you
so.
know.
Yeah.
By the way, Google also provides email.
Well, I kept scrolling down because I was waiting to get to the point where it said, and
a
so
fix.
they've been fined because of the HIPAA violation, X amount, and it basically sounds like there's too much out there that even if they wanted to fine everybody, they couldn't go after them. It's just too much data out there. So that's terrifying, I guess would be the word.
Yep.
Welcome to the digital age.
And this is why you've seen so many people speak out against things like 23andMe, where once you've sent off the blood sample, once they've sequenced your genome or whatever, like you can't take that back. That's now in their records.
Right.
That's able or already
Right, because you give
subpoenaed.
consent for them to have it, right?
Yeah,
When
and
you sign up for the service.
And effectively, then the government has your information, all of your information, like your DNA. That's pretty much as far as it goes.
This is one of those sectors where not necessarily doctors, but their IT team and such, not hardening things. I've read several articles, not recently, about the education industry is also similar. So you can get a lot of information because they go, yeah, it's totally fine. We'll just transmit all of these kids' information in plain text. We don't have to abide by it. But technically, through FERPA, if I'm not wrong, you're supposed to, lock that down.
Yeah.
Most education.
So through Furbies?
Yeah, Furbies.
How am I supposed to open credit cards if I don't have that information?
Well, that's great.
Yeah. Yep,
Man,
so
we need to find
Happy
happy
articles?
articles or something.
Yeah.
this one is it's another kind of push in that direction of everybody paying more attention to how their data is being secured and maintained. Privacy is an important thing.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for the news for us today, but we do have more Technado. We're going to take a quick break, so we'll be right back after this on Technado with Don Pizzette.
The IT Pro TV app is available for iOS and tvOS. The modern user interface makes navigation easy. Recently watched videos can be found on the home screen, as well as our daily live streams. Choose landscape mode for larger viewing. Access the entire course library by clicking on the play icon. Navigate our content by category, certification, and job role. Learn where you want and when you want as a premium annual member by downloading episodes for offline viewing. Watch on the go and pick up later on any of your favorite devices. So head to the App Store and download the IT Pro TV app.
All right, welcome back to Technado with Don Pizzette, and that's the news, and got to know our guests today, but I want to thank you guys for taking the time with us today, both Neil and Oliver, and thanks for bearing with us as Don confused us with all that stuff about Linux and everything.
No,
Thanks for having us.
that was amazing. It was like grad school all over again. I haven't heard of ZFS in a long time.
It was the first time experience.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah,
Much
definitely. And if people want to use Headliner, if they've got a podcast they're starting up, or Justin's mom wants to go ahead and find out about where she can make videos about her still
Moonshining mom and her adventures.
Oh my God! See, there you go. They were
Boom.
really
Do I get to trademark that?
Let's take it off. Yeah, no, it's trademarked now that you said it. I
cool.
think.
Yeah.
So where can they reach out to you guys?
You can find us online at headliner.app. That's headliner.app, or search for Headliner Video in the Android or Apple app stores.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I did look on your site. You guys have a mobile app, so you can actually create the videos and stuff right there in the mobile app.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. All right. Just
Yeah.
that easy.
There you have it.
And we have a promo for all your listeners for our kind of pro tier. So we'll send you guys a link that you can include in the notes, and hopefully your listeners will get a kick out of Headliner.
Yeah, that sounds good. We'll put that in the description as well. So look for that on the YouTube description down there, and would love to hear if any of our listeners are actually using Headliner as well. So thanks again, guys. And before we let everybody go, I want to let you know about a couple of quick things. We've got some webinars coming up. There's actually one that we're filming today. If you haven't gotten enough of Don and you happen to be watching this the day it comes out on Thursday, January 16th, we've got Are You Ready for DAS Part 2, Desktop as a Service. We're doing a deeper dive into Windows Virtual Desktop with Mike Roderick. Don, you're actually filling in for Wes on that one, so I don't know if you knew that.
I did. Yes.
Okay, good. You can head over to itpro.tv/webinars. Also have one next week on the 10 qualities of a help desk pro. That is with Joe Peacock and Wes Bryan, and they're going to be talking all about how you can work your way into help desk. And I think we talked about last week how you can, just keep working your way on through and on
All the way out of help desk.
CIO position that you're looking for.
Into truck driving.
Yeah, into truck driving. Yeah, that's all over at itpro.tv/webinars. And while you're on the internet, why not head over to go.itpro.tv/Technado, and there you can find out all about an IT Pro TV subscription. You can get a 30% off coupon code and find out as well about features for your business. If you want to sign up a team, you can find out all about the Pro Portal and the other things that are available to businesses at IT Pro TV. So that's go.itpro.tv/Technado. All right, guys. Well, again, thank you to our guests. Really appreciate you taking the time today, Neil and Oliver, and thank you all of you guys as well for doing your job.
Yeah. Shut up. So, should we ask people to subscribe?
Yeah, they can do that.
Oh,
Go
okay.
ahead. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I thought you were
Hit that
No, you can do
notification
it.
bell.
Oliver said that's the thing that we're not doing.
Oh, it did it.
As podcasters in general.
Oh, but you're the marketing.
That's
guy.
the end of like every single YouTube podcast.
All right, so
Hit
mash that subscribe button.
Hit that notification
folks.
bell.
Hit the bell and go to the Well, we're
So
more
you get
concerned
all
about
the brand new
RSS than
content.
that. Yeah, head over to Apple, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Podbean. That one's real.
Okay.
Any others I'm missing, Oliver? No, that's it.
That's it. You've covered all of them.
That's all.
There's
Okay,
so many.
There's so many.
that's
There's
all the
so many.
aggregators. All right, perfect, everybody. Thank you for joining us today, and we will see you next week right here on Technado with Don Pizzette.